You ever stop and think about how some jobs, the really, really dangerous ones, get done safely day in and day out? Well, today we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to crack open a real industrial safety manual and see the system that keeps people safe in some of the most hazardous places on Earth. All right, let's get into it.
I mean, seriously, think about that. How do you weld inside a fuel tank or do electrical work on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean? One little mistake could be, well, catastrophic. It's a massive problem, but industries have to solve it every single day. And the answer is a whole lot more than just saying, be careful.
And that solution is called the Permit to Work system, or PTW for short. You can think of it as a formal safety conversation, all put down on paper. Before anyone even thinks about picking up a tool, this system makes everyone, and I mean everyone, stop, think, and agree on a very specific plan. It's not really about asking for permission. It's all about preparation.
Okay, so let's break down how these SMART rules manage to tame some seriously dangerous work. The whole point here is to take safety from something you just assume is happening and turn it into a concrete, documented plan that everyone on the job has to see, understand, and sign off on.
And at the end of the day, this is the goal. The manual we're looking at from the ZPEC Petroleum Group says the purpose is to guarantee that every single person understands the risks, all to achieve effective control over the operation. It's all about eliminating the surprises, because in these jobs, surprises are the last thing you want.
Now, a system like this is really just a bunch of paper without the right people running it. So this isn't just about forms. It's about building a chain of command, a web of accountability where every single person knows exactly what their role is.
So, let's meet the key players in this safety story. First, you've got the rig manager. They're the ultimate authority. Then there's the permit issuer. That's usually a supervisor who maps out all the safety precautions. You have the permit receiver, the qualified person who's actually going to do the work. And then you've got critical specialists, like a gas tester, whose entire job is to make sure the air is literally safe to breathe.
And the manual makes a point here that is absolutely critical. The issuer and the receiver are jointly responsible. This is not a handoff. It's not one person signing a form and just dumping the responsibility on the next person. No way. It's a partnership, and that shared ownership is what makes the whole thing work.
Right, so think about it. Welding inside a tank is a whole different ballgame than working on a high-voltage power line, right? So the permit to work system isn't a one-size-fits-all deal. It has different permits designed specifically for the unique dangers of each job. Let's look at a few.
First up is the hot work permit. This is for anything that could create a spark or a source of ignition. Think welding, cutting, grinding. In a place like an oil rig, a single stray spark could be disastrous. So this permit forces the team to account for every little variable, from making sure fire extinguishers are right there to literally removing anything flammable from the area before work starts. It's all about neutralizing the threat at its source.
Okay, next we have the confined space entry permit. Now, the danger here isn't necessarily a big explosion. It's the environment itself. Working inside a tank or a tight space brings all these invisible threats like toxic gases or just a plain lack of oxygen. So this permit focuses on things like constant air monitoring, and this is so important, having a dedicated rescue person on standby the entire time.
And finally, let's look at the electrical work permit. The big danger with electricity is, of course, the energy you can't see. So this permit is all about total and complete isolation. It demands something called lockout/tagout, which is a fancy way of saying they put a physical lock on the circuit breaker so it absolutely cannot be turned back on by accident. It guarantees that when a worker thinks a line is dead, it is actually dead, no question.
So, we've met the players, we've seen the different kinds of permits. Now let's follow one of these documents through its entire life, from start to finish. This journey, this process, is really the heart and soul of the whole system.
It all kicks off with an application and a safety meeting. Then comes the risk assessment, where other managers look over the plan with a fresh set of eyes. After that, the site itself is prepared. They put up barriers, they isolate the equipment, they do the gas tests. Only then, after all those checks and balances, does the permit get signed and approved. The work gets done under close supervision, and then, this is key, once the job is over, the permit is formally closed out. The site is cleaned up and returned to a safe state. It's a complete circle of safety.
But a permit is not a blank check. It's a live, breathing document. The second conditions on the ground change. If the weather suddenly turns bad, an alarm goes off, or even if a new person joins the work crew, that permit is immediately invalid. Work stops. Period. This makes sure the safety plan is always relevant to what's happening in that exact moment.
So we've seen how the system works step by step, but let's zoom out a bit and talk about why it works. I mean, it seems like a whole lot of paperwork, right? So why is this so effective at preventing accidents?
Well, this line right here from the manual, it really gets to the heart of it. The system forces communication. It makes it mandatory for everyone involved to sit down and talk through the entire job and all the potential hazards in detail. It gets rid of assumptions and replaces them with a clear, shared understanding.
And that's the real secret sauce here. A successful permit-to-work system isn't just about following rules on a page. It actually builds a culture. It creates a workplace where every single person, from the top manager to the person holding the wrench, feels that shared responsibility for keeping each other safe.
And that commitment to safety and responsibility doesn't just vanish when the job is done. That's where this number 1 comes in. First, every completed permit is kept on file for at least 1 year. This creates a library of lessons learned. And second, the entire permit system has to be formally audited at least once a year. This creates a cycle of constant improvement, making sure this blueprint for safety never gets old or outdated.
So this entire system is this incredible, robust way to manage risk when the stakes couldn't be higher. And it kind of makes you think, what about the risks in our own lives? We might not fill out a form to mow the lawn or fix a leaky faucet, but what are our personal permits to work? What are those mental checklists we run through to make sure we stop, think about the hazards, and move forward with a clear, safe plan? It's definitely something